What's up? What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel, Sports, Life, and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, and I'm here for the news. And here recently, the woman who claimed that Emmett Till whistled at her and basically sexually harassed her died at the age of 88. Now, throughout the course of United States history, there has been major events that helped steer the course of where the United States was going. And this is one of those cases. Am I saying this situation was orchestrated? That's hard to say. But we know one thing for a fact is that the United States government and the most highest places use this event to usher in what we know as the Civil Rights Movement. Now, what would make me think this thing was orchestrated? When I mean orchestrated, I don't mean that it was fake. I mean that they sacrificed this young man's life in order to move a certain agenda forward. Now, in order to get civil rights moved in the direction they wanted it to move, they need a mass event. They need something to capture the American people so they can implement the change and it would make sense to the people. Now, Emmett Till, what happened to him was terrible, but it was nothing that was out of the ordinary during those times in the 1950s. There was a lot of lynchings going on, but they have to have the right case in order to implement this. The Civil Rights Movement was not a black movement. It was a liberal movement. That's why before Martin Luther King died, he said, I fear I led my people into a burning house. He feared he led us into a burning house. Basically saying that the Civil Rights Movement was a sham. You have to understand a lot of these people are in what they would call secret societies / sororities, whatever you want to call it. But they do orchestrate events and they play the long game. Unlike the Negro who's playing the day-to-day game, these people are playing the long game. In order to implement civil rights and to get it to go where they wanted it to go, they knew it would take 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. They knew that. So we're going to take a look at this clip and we're going to hear them and see if we can't find some clues into why this event actually happened and why this event actually hit the national stage. Let's take a look.
The white woman who accused Emmett Till of making advances towards her has died. 14-year-old Emmett Till was kidnapped and brutally murdered by Bryant's then-husband and his half-brother in Mississippi in 1955 over the allegation. The two men were acquitted in his killing by an all-white jury, but later confessed in an interview. The case gained national attention after Emmett Till's mother allowed Jet magazine to take and publish photos of her son's mutilated body in an open casket. The horrific image shocked the nation and served as the catalyst for the civil rights movement. Years after Till's death, Dunham admitted to fabricating parts of her story, although she was never charged with a crime. Professor Davis Haupt joins us now. He's a professor of rhetorical studies at Florida.
And let me say this. And when I say that the civil rights movement was a liberal movement, which today we call super liberalism, what I'm telling you is the whole thing, believe it or not, was about where we're at today, which is gay rights, trans rights, and eventually, allegedly, pedophile rights, pederasty, man-boy love. Believe you me, like the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. Benjamin Franklin, all of these guys, former Freemasons, all of these guys were into the ancient Babylonian mystery school teachings. That's just a fact. Whether you deal with some of the most world-renowned Freemasons like Albert Pike, who was a devil worshiper and a Luciferian. These people, when they joined these fraternities and these organizations, they play the long game. I want to make that very clear. This is not about tomorrow. This is about the whole future and about what they think the future should be.
State University, and he helped found the Emmett Till Memory Project. He also co-authored a book about the media response to Till's murder. Professor Haupt, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me on, Jim.
Sure, I'd like to start by asking you about sort of any interactions you had with the Bryant family.
I did. Back in 2009, word got out that the family was shopping a memoir. And I edited a book series with the University Press of Mississippi, and so I figured, why not? I wrote a note to the family, I had an address, and I sent it, and of course I didn't figure I'd hear anything. Well, a week later, I get a phone call from a woman who identifies herself as Marcia Bryant. Marcia Bryant is Carolyn Bryant's daughter-in-law. And Marcia Bryant, first of all, wanted to know, how did you know we had a manuscript? And then proceeded to talk my ear off for about a half an hour about her mom being innocent, and the family's really never spoken, and so I just tried to keep her on the line, keep her talking. But I'll never forget how she signed off as we were getting ready to hang up. She said, your letter came in the mail, and another letter came in the mail with it, and in that letter was a death threat. And so what I gathered from that was the family worked very hard over many years to protect her, because I think those death threats were not uncommon.
All right, so Carolyn Bryant herself.
And yes, there was a lot of death threats towards this lady, which is not uncommon, which would make a lot of sense considering what happened to Emmett Till. And like I said before, I want to make it very clear. I'm not saying that, when I say orchestrated, I'm not saying that Emmett Till really didn't die. I'm not saying Emmett Till was an innocent young boy, because he was. This was terrible what happened to him. But what I'm telling you is the super liberals at that time, they were just basically Jewish men who were. It wasn't called super liberals. Excuse me. They weren't super liberals at the time, but they were Jewish men. The same Jewish men who were behind Martin Luther King. Now, if you look up Martin Luther King, you look up all his speeches, and you look up all those marches, you will see the Jewish men always right behind him. A lot of them Jewish men was writing a lot of his speeches, and that's a fact.
Hardly gave any interviews after the case, but if we have this right, in 2008, she reportedly told a historian by the name of Tim Tyson that key parts of her testimony were not true. So how does all of that figure into what her daughter-in-law was telling you? And what do you make of it?
Well, the FBI investigated Tim Tyson's claim that Carolyn Bryant supposedly recanted to him, and they did not find that evidence credible from Tim Tyson. And this summer, the memoir, the unpublished memoir, leaked. And for me, what's interesting is in that memoir, she sticks exactly to the story she gave on the witness stand on September 22nd, 1955. So I take her at her word, and her word, we know, is really just a bunch of lies. We know this because on September 2nd, just 2 days after Emmett's body was discovered, she was interviewed by a lawyer, and in that kind of deposition, she indicates what happened in that store. And Emmett did not put his hands on her. He did not talk dirty to her, did not talk fresh to her, did not talk about being with white women before. And so those were lies that she concocted on the witness stand 3 weeks later.
I just want to be clear about this, Professor. Never in the years after this did she ever express even a syllable of remorse, correct?
Well, in her memoir, she does do that, but she never did it in front of a camera. She never did it in a...
Well, this lady, I guarantee you, before she died, she had a lot of regret about this. There's no doubt, because when you get older, it's like a baby. You know how they say small babies, can see ghosts or grandma, or they have a better connection to the spirit realm. We've all heard that. And as you get older, the same things happen. Now, them demons were circling that lady, and when she died, they snatched her demon right, or they snatched her soul right out of her in the most violent way possible. But it's just one of those things that you know, when you do these type of things, you can't take them back.
In a public venue, so you're right. The Emmett Till community, the family, wanted to hear from her directly, but that never happened.
All right, so the Bryant family obviously has had to live connected to this with a legacy. I'm just curious, have any of the other generations said anything about this in the almost 70 years since?
They really haven't. They've kept a real tight lid on her story. What I'll be interested to see is in the days and weeks ahead, did Carolyn Bryant perhaps leave instructions for somebody to talk? And we'll see. We've long wanted the family to say something, but again, the sons, the grandkids, nobody has said a word.
It's so important, obviously, to continue to tell the story of what happened. You have the Emmett Till Memory Project that you helped found to help do that. Can you just give us a little bit of insight into what the Emmett Till Memory Project is all about?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So we founded this project back in 2015. It was a joint project between the University of Kansas, my colleague Dave Tell, and Patrick Weems at the Emmett Till Interpretive Center, and my colleagues here at Florida State. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to educate a new generation, especially younger generations who are growing up on smartphones and who can go to the Mississippi Delta as well as Chicago and study the case from their phones. So it's a GPS-enabled app that takes you from site to site and tells the story, along with archival images, as well as pretty detailed narratives of what happened at that particular location.
Professor Davis Houck doing some important work, making sure the memory of Emmett Till is preserved and what happened to him is never forgotten. Thank you.
And it will never be forgotten. That's something that, because of how they used it, they put it in Jet magazine and plastered it across America, and that was in every home, especially every black home. And they used major newspapers to plaster in every white home. So it was one of those things, like I said, the media controls the narrative. And whatever narrative they want, that's what they put out there. And when they put a narrative out there, we have to be extremely cognitive. We have to, really pay attention to exactly what they're saying and why they're saying it and why they're putting it in front of us. And this is one of those cases that they put this in front of us to usher in the civil rights movement. And the civil rights movement turned into a LGBT movement. How that happened, we all seen it unfold before our own eyes. First it started out with everybody deserves to be treated equal. Now it started out black people deserve to be treated equal. Everybody deserves to be treated equal. Gays deserve to be treated equal. Trans, and then so on and so forth, all the way into, I allegedly say, pedophiles. That's what's coming downhill next. And that's why I say they play the long game. 1955, you just couldn't just throw this shit out there. There's no way. But even back then, everybody wasn't with civil rights. You had Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam. You had the Black Panthers. You had a lot of other groups that wasn't with that. You had people like Fred Hampton, who had the Rainbow Coalition. And that movement was hijacked by who? The LGBT movement. Now the rainbow signifies homosexuality. I mean, sometimes people, they might think that you're stretching things, that you're a crazy man, but it's not. Yeah, what happened to Emmett Till was terrible. Should have never happened, but this young man was sacrificed to usher in the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement, they used the black man to usher it in, talking about fairness and equality and all this shit that never existed on the planet. And then we see today that there's no such thing as equality whatsoever. But, I just want to go over this clip right quick, you guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. All my videos are freestyle, so if I mess up on a word or fumble over something, it happens. You try freestyling some shit for 10, 15 minutes and see how it works out for you. But I do appreciate all the people who tune into the video, watch the video. Thank you. I appreciate you very much, man. This is Sports Life and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel. I'm here for the news. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. They used Emmett Till's death to usher in civil rights ride. Peace.